Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's all about the Iraqi crisis and the implication of this crisis in the Middle East. Some of the opinion that the crisis, they are politically motivated. Others are of the opinion that it's time for a change in Iraq. Don't forget also about what happened to Qasem Soleimani in an Iraqi airport. All these factors coming together to heat up the polity in Iraq. My analyst will throw more light on that. With me here in the studio, I have a reverend gentleman, a clergyman, a political analyst, both local and international politics. It's very grounded. Join me to welcome Reverend Humphrey Ariga. Reverend, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And sitting very close to Reverend is a legal practitioner, Barrister Osaho Osazua. Barrister, welcome to the show.
It is always my pleasure.
All right. So, gentlemen, here we are. It's like the Middle East seems not to have rid itself of one form of crisis or another. You take a look at Yemen, take a look at Iran, but today we're focusing on Iraq. It's like a tension keeps building up in the Middle East, and many pundits are like scared. Maybe that may just be the spark, so to speak, for the Third World War. Reverend, let me come to you. How do you feel about all the situation emanating in Iraq?
Thank you very much. I may not agree with you that it's a sign of Third World War, because the Middle East situation is not new, and there are a lot of factors at play, which we need to look at as we try to decipher the issues. Two things are very predominant here. One is religious tension. Second is economic. And then correlated by the third factor, which is the American intervention. People look at it as human rights and diplomacy. These interplay themselves. But looking at the central environment of Iraq, it also plays a strategic environment in the politics of the Middle East. First of all, let me look at the spiritual angle of it. You have the interplay of the Sunni and the Shiite. The Shiite is a majority, the Sunni is a minority. That again brings to fore the fight between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia leads the Sunnis, Iran leads the Shiites, and America is in the middle. America, to some degree of purpose, even now, is leans more towards the Saudi Arabia. Again, that's because after the hostage crisis in Iran, there has been the tension between the U.S. and Iran, so that's a laid foundation. So anywhere America exists, Iran must be on the opposite side. When it comes to the Middle East, and they find an ally in Saudi Arabia, who are, of course, of the moderate. You see, these are some of the things people begin to talk about. The Sunnis are the moderate Islamic countries of the world. The Houthis, who are the Iran, are more fundamentalists. And there is these two fights of the supremacy of who now takes the directive of the Islamic religion. Then, of course, the issue with oil, which brought America into the politics of Iraq before the elimination of Saddam Hussein. So these things come into play. But now the other dimension that is involved in it is the youth population, because over the years, the political environment has been dominated in a little bit of balance. The prime ministership is rotated between the south, which is the Sunnis, and the north, which is the Shiites. And then the parliament is made up majority of Shiites because they are in a majority. And the American intervention had made it a little bit difficult for the dominance of the Shiites in Iraq, which is favoring Iran. To the benefit of Saudi Arabia, who is trying to play a dominant role in the Middle East as it is. with all these issues. So the young people are beginning to lose patience in some of the things. It's across the globe. It's not just Iraq now, because the political evolution of the old does not give benefits to a majority of the youths. Again, because of the intervention of internet. The internet has made it possible for the youths to have access to worldview. And looking at things the way they are, they don't seem to flow very much into the old order. You know, in every nation, you are looking at the youths beginning to question a lot of the activities of the elderly ones. And then you're talking about global shortage of jobs and others because of the war that have been fought in Iraq. Today, there's no central government in Iraq, to a point. It may look as if there's a government, but there is tension, there is suspicion, there is all this. So it's a whole lot of problems that is boiling out, you know. But like I said, it's not going to be a third world war issue. It's still going to, just like you had the Arab Spring, you talk about the Syria. Today, Syria is getting back to where it came from before the intervention of. So there's a whole lot of interplay of politics, of religion, of economy, and of a youthful population.
All right, I will come back to you, Reverend. You hammered more on the youthful population, saying that the way of the new is not in tandem with the ways of the old. Now, Barrister, you've seen this crisis. At first, it was when there was a war, the Iraqi war, the death or the hanging of Saddam Hussein. All of a sudden, every region started having their warlords picking up territories for themselves. Then there came in ISIS to destabilize Iraq. The more they were fought off, but now Iraq is trying to get back on its feet, and here we are. Crisis emanating from majority of the youth. He talked about U.S. interference, talked about Saudi Arabia interference. What are your perspective on this?
Thank you very much, Winston. When you talk about the politics of the Middle East, one has to be very, very careful, either to apportion blame or to try, maybe even try to academically trace the roots of the problems there, because the more you look in, it's like a labyrinth. You realize you open one layer, there's another layer, one interspersing and interfering into the others. Yes, my colleague just trying to make sure the issue of Saudi Arabia vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis the United States, and then issue of the Shiites and the Sunnis inside of Iraq. One will be left to think that the problem somehow will be the Shiites. It's a general thinking that the Shiites are the so-called fundamentalists, like Donald Trump would like us to believe. But if you look at it critically, you will realize that that isn't the case. There is politics at play. There is big money at play. The U.S. genuflect before the god of money. They don't really care. They will tell you we are this. But if you look at it deeply, you realize it's where their interest lies. That's where they protect. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the Arabian states, the Gulf states, they have the money. And the United States today, President Donald Trump plays to them. And then before you can do that, you will have to assuage your own conscience. You would like to build a theoretical framework for this is what I'm doing. Then the name calling come up. That these guys are the bad guys, these are the good guys. But what are the facts? Of all the persons that attacked 9/11, all the attackers, they were all Sunni. And from the madrasas of Karachi to that of Lahore, all the way to the Ahmadiyya system in northern Nigeria, it's been fueled and funded and sponsored by what they call Wahhabism. Islamic Wahhabism, as it stands today, is a Sunni interpretation of the Islam. And this also gave birth to the Islamic State. These are all Sunni groups. And they have the most vicious interpretation of the Holy Quran. That is the truth. It could be misinterpreted or miso. But Trump will not like you and I to believe that. Iran has to be the problem. Iran has to be the enemy. Because that was suit them. That was suit their geopolitics and their economic interest in the Middle East. They will close their eyes to the fact that, look, there is a brand, there is a state that is really sponsoring, so to speak, terrorism. All the money is being flowed to indoctrinate these young ones about a certain interpretation of the Holy Quran. It comes from a certain place, and we all know that. But Trump would not like you to believe this. Iran has to be the problem. Now, coming to Iraq itself now, yes, this is geopolitics. The soul of Iraq. And Iraq is the largest Shiite Arabic state. Bearing in mind that Iran itself is not an Arabic nation. In fact, there are only two majority Shiite Islamic states in the world, Iraq and Bahrain. There are two that has Shiite Arabic majority, Arabic states that have Shia majority. So that's that. So, but when it comes to Iraq, because of the proximity of Iraq to Iran, because of Donald Trump enmity, hatred for Iran, and then, which also translates as hatred for Obama, he wants to cast Iran in a light that is as demonic and as bad as possible. That these guys, we cannot work with them. That somehow the problems of the world emanates somewhere from Tehran. He closes his eyes to the fact of what the Islamic State did. The Islamic State is the first terrorist organization in the world to aspire to a geographical expression. They had states, super state structure that everybody was running to, saying that the caliphate has come. It was a Sunni interpretation, a Sunni group.
Okay.
That, my brother, is the fact. For all your hatred for Iran, you cannot water down these facts that the brand of extremism vis-a-vis Islam mainly comes from the Sunni group.
From the Sunni group.
That's
okay.
my argument.
Okay, fine. Now you just hold on. Now he talked about this Sunni group because right now in the protest they are accusing the Shiites of corruption. Is it about the Shiites and the Sunni?
You see, there's, like I said, the foundation has to be laid, and the foundation is more of a religious environment, but colored by political and external interventions. But then you have to look at the issues. The problem, the young ones are saying, with the volume of resources that the state is generating, where is the evidence for us to have a benefit? I said earlier, majority of the governance of the leadership of Iraq is Shiite. So when you are talking about the children shouting about their fathers, it's the people who are involved. So that's why they are shouting. That these persons have, over the years, exploited the resources, squandered it through corruption. That's the only way, because when you misappropriate funds, when you misappropriate authority, it's corruption, you know. But you have to also look at how and why, because a lot of things is that when most of the economic issues are being discussed, because they are not things that people can easily hold on to, religion or culture becomes the vehicle of discussion. That's the issue. And it's unfortunate that the reason why you cannot also separate between governance and religion, especially in the Muslim world, is that as far as they are concerned, there's no difference between religion and governance. It's fused together. So that's why when you're discussing the issue of the environment in the Middle East, religion cannot be divorced from it. It is not the religious persons or fanatics that have, it is those who have used religion to gain power to governance and misgovern the people that has caused these problems. So you also look at, as I said, when you look at also from the intervention of the Americans, what has been the state of affairs? The Americans have, even in America, there's anger in the amount of resources sunk into Iraq for which results cannot be seen. Corruption has come in because people have profited from it. The oil that is there, people, you don't have warlords. Warlords are commanders of these areas, and they also have access to all the things. So the young ones are the ones that are the battleground, that are taking the heat, because they are not seeing the future. These warlords, and you find out that where are they putting their resources? Most of the resources they have are put outside. They're not invested into making the nation a better place for the young ones to live. But then, who are they? It's like Africa, for instance. The African leaders still dance to the tune of their colonial masters. Iraq today is seen, whether we have to agree or not, we hear a lot about Iran's influence in Iraq. That is where the bottom line is. That's where I don't have a problem. To me, I'm not buying the American issue, because I look at a lot of things from the perspective of what they talk. Every man talks from his issue of profits, you know. Yes. But when you are looking at those who have been in charge, most of those who have been in charge has been those who have aligned themselves with Iran. And that's why there's war. Iran are saying Americans should leave. That's why the parliament passed a law. Just say that the Americans should leave because they're majority in the parliament. But the governor, which is, I think the prime minister is a Sunni, they have not spoken anything about it. But there's no way the Americans will leave, because when the American leaves, it becomes a launch pad. Look at what has happened in Syria. A lot of things have take their places in the place. When America tried to withdraw from Syria, there was a launch. If not for what Russia did, you may have been having the fundamentalist environment. All of them are fundamentalists. These are some of the things.
Right.
Because each one wants to have a superior thought. And because Saudi Arabia owns the holy place, they claim to be the custodian of the religion. And so you cannot be more holy than the Pope, as they say, when it comes to the issue. So these are issues, but these, we have found that most of them cannot be correctly placed. These are some of the things, because if you cannot do things to benefit your citizens, you have no reason of being in governance. And if your religion cannot give people peace as to live a life for where they are going, then what's the basis of religion? It ought to be an awakening of the soul to the consciousness of the human existence. And there's nothing we're saying about it. So we're saying that the young people, but I'm also afraid of the young people, because if you look at what has happened in Egypt, there was an uprising. Today, Egypt is not better than when there was an uprising. You look at Algeria, it's not better than when you look at Tunisia. They're not better. So what are the examples? Libya is not better. So what are the examples that the young people who are crying today do have a future plan for themselves?
Right. If they do have a future plan for themselves, but are still the one championing these protests. They are the ones in the forefront, and majority of them, they are university undergraduates going out in the streets. Anyway, now from what Reverend said, he said it's not totally an American thing. It's almost like a religious thing embedded in politics. It's like a battle between the Shia and, of course, the Sunni. Do you see the hands of Iran in all of this?
I cannot. Why I cannot say that Iran, the hands of Iran have to be in it for several reasons. They have got their interest to protect. Iran's continuing existence, especially under President Donald Trump, has become more and more dependent to the extent to which Iran can exert itself. And the best way for the Persian state to exert itself right now is to fight through proxies. Spread yourself as wide as possible. That we have the Houthis today in Yemen. It's a proxy of Iran. We have Hezbollah in Lebanon today. It's a proxy. We have the Qatar Hezbollah today inside of Iraq, and so many fronts like that. It has to be so, because Iran has come to understand that, look, we have our foe is strong and formidable, and we cannot take on him. There is no way Iran can stand the United States in a conventional war. They won't last more than a week in a conventional war. Though the war may drag on for years, if possible, but by then Iran, as we know it today, would have ceased to exist. Yeah. But having said that, we must remind ourselves of what Frank Fanon said when he was trying to define man. That each time I look at man in the image of the West, I see only a subsection of the negation of man and an avalanche of murders, unquote. What he was saying, that the West themselves, that's, I've said it severally, that I don't know, because we tend to see them as the good guys over here. But I've never seen a people more adroit. I've never seen a people more deft at protecting their home, more chameleonic. They wanted to see what they wanted to see what they wanted to see, not the real them. We are talking today about Iraq. How the Shia has become the face of corruption today in Iraq. Ask yourself, look at the facts. What are the facts? For decades and decades, if not even centuries, we have a tiny clique of mendacious Sunni leaders superimposing themselves on the majority of Shiites in Iraq for decades under the supervision of the West, and they turned their eyes. They said nothing. Saddam Hussein was there for decades. He was a Sunni person in a majority Shiite nation, and he wasn't corrupt. Is that what you are saying, that he wasn't corrupt? That all these years when he was
but he was able to maintain peace in that region.
Yes, let me tell you, all those years when he was an ally of the West, fighting Iran, because of the then Iranian revolution, what happened at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, all those stuff, he was there. Even before him, even with the Ba'ath Revolution of 1959 that brought the Ba'athist Party itself was a mainly Sunni movement that ruled over the majority of Shiite in Iraq for years. And since the fall of Saddam Hussein, Iraq has known no peace. And that's the few times that the majority Shia has had a say, a kind of say in the way they are being governed. And for that time, it has been a time of chaos and calamity. Because of what? Because the United States came after they built a monster, and the monster now turned against them. They came to remove him. And while removing him, they made no provision for somebody that would replace him or a system that will work. Just like what also happened in Libya. That's that. We must be able to see the West for who they are. That these guys, they love themselves. They always protect themselves. They look, and that's why I also like Trump. That's the only good thing I have for him. He's very unlike them. It doesn't hide it. That look, we like the oil. We are going for the oil.
Okay.
He keeps saying it for all who care to understand. They don't give a qualms about certain things, about certain say human rights stuff. No. Even when it became clear, crystal clear to the world, that the Saudi prince has masterminded and ordered the killing of Khashoggi inside the Saudi Arabia consulate in Turkey. What did he say? I said, no, he's not going to put all the billions of dollars for the arms deal over the murder of one person. That's my man. He just says it. So that, but he has said, this is who I am. But I've been to wonder what some people who kind of defend his sister as these are the good guys.
Okay.
No, they're not the good guys. The head of the system is telling me I'm a bad guy. I care only for myself. I care only for what will benefit my nation. He has said it over and over again, and yet we continue to look at them as the good guys.
Okay.
That is a parody and an irony.
All right, you are still hammering the blame on the U.S. You talked about them being, you used the term chameleonic, like
yes,
a chameleon.
see
what they want you to see. Okay, now, you talked about the youthful age. You see, put the blame on the U.S., but you said, no, it is not about the U.S. sort of from all angles. At least some, they have their own part, but not all. The question now is there really corruption in Iraq? If yes, who are the ones in charge? I don't know the ones responsible for all this crisis we are seeing in that region.
You see, wherever human being exists, corruption exists. Because man in itself is selfish. Man in itself has very limited potential ability to do everything right. Because it's colored by his own emotions and by his own thoughts. So there's no gainsaying of the fact that there's corruption in Iraq. Just like you cannot say that there's no corruption in America. There's corruption in America. There's corruption everywhere. See, my own thought over the years is I refuse to blame an external force for the problems that happens in my domain. Because it is what you accept that people give to you. If the Iraqis can say to themselves, we will govern ourselves and make sure everybody is at peace, they will do it. But when the few who are privileged to be proxy to the external forces are using that against their own people, then that is where the problem is. And that's where both the Sunnis, who are Saudi Arabia and American procs, and then the Shiites, who are from Iran, have given the problem to themselves. A lot of money has been pumped in by all of us. And the money is used to fuel the crisis. If you even look at the crisis with the youth, that's what I keep saying, the youth have never really had an organized. If you look, who is the leader of the youth movement? You can't find. There's a mass movement without a direction.
Mass movement without direction.
Because that's what we have seen, that's what we saw in Libya after the death of Sun. That's what we saw in Tunisia, that's what we saw in Egypt. We are seeing it everywhere. Until there is a choreographic display of the authenticity of the individuals. But again, the system that they are about to go against will not give them room. Once there is a leader seen, he's either arrested or killed. So look at what has happened in Hong Kong, for instance. So these are issues. So
that's killing of their leaders right now.
They kill the leader because they see them as the problem. Instead of seeing people you can talk with. You see, and that's why movements do not read the results. Because you're not talking to anybody. You go on the street and you're rampaging and who are you talking to? What do you want to do? Who will give you access? No. You need to have an organized thought. You know. But neither the Americans, nor the Iraqis themselves, nor the Iran, we give each of them opportunity to do that. And that's where it is more chaotic than anything, you know. And just like we have everywhere, we need to be able to ask ourselves, even, like I say, even the youths, if you ask 10 of them the problem, they will give you 10 answers. Some of them will talk from their communal coloration, like what you have in Libya today. Every warlord is a warlord in the community. And nobody is talking, everybody is talking. You know? The same thing with Iraq. If you go to Iraq, they are divided. Even in their movement, you find that some people are against and for. So we are not dissected the movement all through. And but also you are shown what you want to be, what people want you to see. You know, you are not there now to really know the exact thing. It's what you see on pictures, what you see either in YouTube and all. People present these pictures from their own perspective. They're explaining it, you know. But there is no gazing on the fact that the resources that is available to Iraq, and looking at the development in Iraq, and the students went on rampage because they have seen hopelessness in their academics. They are not seeing anything. Why do I need to go to school when there's no future? Even in the school, the amenities may not be available. They spend all the resources buying arms. What is it for? You know, today human beings spend more money on arms and ammunition than on human welfare. When you buy arms, what are you buying it for? It's to kill. So when all your thoughts is to destroy who you see as the opponent, then who is going to be left? So they need to be a rethinking of all of them. Like I said, the Iraqis have the ability to seize the opportunity and say to both Iran, the man that was killed, this Iranian man that was killed in Iraq, what was he doing? Why was he using it as a base? It's because somebody granted him an opportunity. There's some of the things. So if the leadership can say, look, we don't want our place to be a war zone. We don't want neither the Americans, nor the Russians, or the Saudis to make our place a battlefield. We need to go and say, they have the diplomatic means to say it themselves. But how will you say it? Will the Sunnis and the Shiites sit in the same parliament and see themselves as Iraqis and not as Sunnis or
Good question. Good question. Now, he talked about these turbulence metamorphosizing into something else of you see the leaders, you take them out of the board. He used the term also movement without direction. And in our capital by saying you can't see the Shiite and the Sunni in a room negotiating for peace in Iraq. All these factors put together, do you see an escalation in this situation, Barrister?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me quickly say this. The differences we see today is not as deep. We have always had since the passage of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there has always been this issue of who succeed the Holy Prophet. Whether it is the
Shiite or the Sunni.
You understand? So it has always been there. But what we have today is an economic and political thing being exacerbated by the West. The little differences.
Always the West, the West,
yeah,
the
no,
West.
It is, because it is. If it weren't, I wouldn't say it, because it is. Because they want to, it's all about money. It's geopolitics, it's money, it's politics, and it's economy. Trump wants oil price to be as low as possible. And to guarantee that he has to be very friendly with the Arabians. Even no matter what the Crown Prince does now, no matter what he does, I'm telling you, no matter
people will not agree to this opinion of yours.
That's that. So nobody will, they won't say anything about it. But let Iran, let him slap somebody on the streets of Tehran. You see the reaction. That's that. To answer you firmly, we must understand today that yes, there is this there is an uprising, or what of course the Arabs also call intifada. This uprising that we also saw, over 600 persons, youth, lost their lives in Iraq during this protest that was largely undocumented and largely not followed, because they wanted a change. But when you go to the streets and you upturn the system, you just make things, you don't get results unless you are constructive in what you do. Dr. King was able to make landmark progress in the US only by peaceful movements. He gave them the voting rights, so many bills that came as a result of his non-violent protests. So it has to be constructive. Because when you come out and you war and then you leave a fissure, there's hatred inside, the other guy sees you as the enemy, nothing gets solved. The fissure gets widened. So that's what has happened. Look at a good example that you just mentioned in Hong Kong. What happened? You disrupt an economy that is booming and working very, very well. The city came to a halt. Over what? Over issues being instigated again by the West. They thought they were being oppressed by China. When you have an economy that is booming, everything is working well, everything is so great, you allow yourself to, they say the field is always greener in somebody else's stuff. And that's it. They send this picture to you of democracy, of human rights, of brotherly love. But the facts are not so. When you go there, you see that they have their own strong issues. You see that they have their own racist issues.
On the internet.
Yeah, go to the West, go to the South now in the US. See what blacks and other minorities, what they are suffering. But when they project themselves outside, they think, you think, these guys are the real guys. That those guys, and the guy in your come, think, I'm being oppressed from Beijing. I'm being oppressed from Beijing. When there's no such oppression. So that was that. Because people allow themselves to be brainwashed, trying to send a picture outside that, look, you guys are suffering, when in fact, you are not suffering. That's what happened in Libya, my brother. The Libyans thought life was unbearable under Gaddafi. They thought Gaddafi epitomizes evil. That if you are looking for evil, just look at the face of Gaddafi, you see evil. That was the story, that the narrative that was sold to them from the West. And they believed so. And they saw him as their problem. Remove this guy and all our problems get solved. They removed him and the problem just started. And they have seen what nobody could thought. Even while they were fighting in Libya for weeks and months, the light was still there. Electricity was still stable. That shows the depth to which Gaddafi was able to bring his people together. But they saw him as a problem at the time, and they now remove him, and they now realize that it wasn't a problem. So likewise all over the world, we must be careful what we listen to. Today in Nigeria, I hear a lot of stuff about let's go away, let this one go away. You begin to feel that you'll be better off without the other person. That all your problem comes from the other guy somewhere else. That, my brother, is not the truth. It also happened in Sudan. The average South Sudanese thought that the Arab in the north was their problem. They left the Sudan. Of course, then the problem started. Within themselves, the Anims and the so-called Christians, they started fighting themselves in a very ravaging war that they never fought with the north. No. Okay. That's the fact of history. And we all must learn from that.
All right, now he went down memory lane, bringing examples from various countries, you blaming others for whatever you are going through. But now the crisis is on. Both documented and undocumented casualties in Iraq. I felt like so scared that this may spill into something that the world may not even be able to handle. Do you think that there's a political situation to this cutting across religions divide in Iraq? Do you think there can ever be a sit down? Let's talk, politically speaking.
Of course, there's nothing that has a beginning that does not have an ending. That's how I said earlier. It's not going to lead to any third world war. In the next 5-10 years, we'll be talking of a different story. Nobody thought that Syria was going to be back to as a country. Today, they are gradually coming back as a nation. Nobody thought that ISIS was not going to last. Today, they are history. So you see, there are phases. It converses, you know, and you're like Tunisia. Nobody thought that Tunisia was going to survive. They're surviving. So it's going to be just like there's a turbulence. It's like when you're taking a flight and there's a turbulence in the air. So people believe that that's the end of it. But it simmers down a bit and gets soon. I believe that things will get better. Just that if the leaders can only but listen.
But they're being killed.
No, I'm not talking of the youth, but I'm talking of the leaders of the country. If they can only but listen to the cry of their citizens that something is wrong. It is when you are not listening that you don't think. And that's one of the problems that is wrong with human individuals, especially those in powers of authority. They believe that they know it all. Whatever they say should go. Nobody should say any other thing. Well, you are not seeing everything from everywhere. You are seeing it from one side of it. When you hear people talk, sit back again and listen. What was wrong, what would have been wrong if you call the student union leadership or the university students and discuss and ask them questions and discuss with them. Treat them as human beings. It is because the young ones see that they are not even listened to, nobody thinks that they are anything, that they went to the street. It is not. Like even when you mention that of Hong Kong, everybody wants to be listened to. They have a cry, a hard cry. Then the leaders of these other countries, you see, when you import what you don't tolerate in your country to another man's country and begin to do it, it should send some signal of morality to individuals. What exactly is your leadership role in this environment? If all that you do is to create problems and kill people, we are going to give an answer to everything. For every person who attains to leadership of any kind, we answer to the maker. Thank God that both religions talks about that. So we need to, even the students. So because nobody wants to die. Nobody just goes to give his life for anything. But when you are seeing that the future is not better than what you have to do, you are just asking yourself, what is the need? You know, I think it should be a wake-up call. And leaders of countries should not wait until people march to the streets and start burning things before they begin to think that something is wrong. Look at what is happening in Lebanon today. It's some of those things. I just wonder why all this. Must people die in office? If you are no longer able to do something and people are revolting, step down, let somebody else try so that we can give opportunity. Because there are people with knowledge and intellect in Iraq that can solve the problem.
Knowledge and intellect in Iraq that can really solve the problem. Now, if you want to profile a solution, Barrister, because our time is up, what do you think should be the solution to this crisis? It's been lingering on. Last year, towards the tail end of last year, and now this year, briefly.
Yeah, the solution is to do the right thing. Is to mend broken walls. Is to always approach issues with a heart that is right, a conscience that is clear. Today, Qasem Soleimani has become the face of the devil, that he was a terrorist, he was doing this, he was doing that. Yet, the fact remains, when Islamic State insurgents were taking over the streets of Iraq, this was the same person. When Iraqi troops were pulling their uniform and running away, this was the very same man who stood up and fought against the Islamic State and liberated most part of Iraq. That he was not killed in Iraq, it's not a person that said, and I said, what is he doing in Iraq? It's very same Iraqi soil that he helped to drive ISIS from. So the solution is to stay fast as it is and to be fair to ourselves, not to take a position that's because this one, anything in Iran is evil, everything in Saudi Arabia is good. We should think straight and do the right thing and allow ourselves and think independently and not be governed or regulated by or brainwashed by Western media.
All right, thank you, you and the West. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Reverend, 30 seconds, your last line on this.
Nothing has ever been achieved by war.
Yeah.
Everything comes to the round table.
All right.
So we must get back to the round table.
We must get back to the round table. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Let us hope and pray that there will be peace in Iraq. Bye for now.
This is ITV. Certainly the best.